I believe business is difficult to run. Just any business, right? Yeah, in general, because if you're the CEO of a business, you're trying to keep your customers happy, your employees happy, your shareholders happy, right? And that's never an easy task. Now, when you throw family in on top of that, now you got to keep Aunt Gertrude happy or Uncle Joe happy, and you got to show up to Mom's Thanksgiving dinner after you just terminated your sister.
Hey there, I am Dr. Jason Balara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast, where we explore the why behind success. Every week, I meet with real estate investors, veterinary entrepreneurs, mindset coaches, authors, and fitness professionals to uncover their why and how it drives them on the winding road to success. What is your why?
Hi everyone, I'm Jason Balara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast. Today I'm here with Rob Ferguson, a seasoned CEO and family business advisor. As the founder of Ferguson Alliance, Rob specializes in guiding family businesses through complexity of blending familiar relationships with business operations, which I know can be very tricky. First, let me say, Rob, thanks for coming on the show today. Appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. It's even later on a Friday afternoon for you. So I definitely appreciate the time, and I'm excited to get to chat with you. Thank you for coming on the show.
You bet, Jason. Thanks for asking me. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. Can you just start by, giving people your background, kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, and then, we'll go and have a conversation from there.
Sure. Yep. So native Texan, grew up here, went to college here. After that, had a brief stint in the military, and then went to work for a very large conglomerate, and had a very successful career in that business as a young manager. And at a young age, got to participate in a management leverage buyout of a company in one of their specialty products division. They were divesting. And so I don't even know if I was 30 yet, had no money. I was recently married. So I went to my in-laws and asked them for their pension plan so I could buy into this investment idea. They were school teachers. And my father-in-law said, sure, here you go. And yeah. And so I took his money and rolled it into this venture. We leveraged it up, took a little $30 million business, grew it to $100 million in about 4 years. Then we ended up selling it to a private equity firm. Some of my managing partners left. I stayed because I was the youngest and also the most naive, and doubled down. Everybody else liked to take the chips off. I rolled it back. Oh, by the way, I did pay my father-in-law back. He was really excited about that.
Good.
And we eventually took the company public. I eventually became CEO, and it was a great ride for about almost 25 years. So that was kind of my first entree into what I'll say industry after I got out of the Army. And then I wanted to do it again, and I ended up at a family business. It was fifth generation, 17 cousins, 100 years old, and it was not working. They were losing money, and so they hired me to come in as the first non-family CEO to turn the company around and actually prepare it for a sale. The 17 cousins were not getting along. So while I was doing that, I was invited to another family office, 100 years old, over 70 family shareholders, wildly successful. And they would hire guys like me to go sit on their boards of their operating companies, the various portfolio companies they had, and report back in the family office how their investments were behaving. I explain that because that's what's really influenced me to get into the family business space. I kind of grew up in public companies, institutional companies, private equity sponsored companies. I thought that's where I was going to stay. And then I ended up in the family business and fell in love with it. And I fell in love with it because I understood there's some significant differences between a family business and a non-family business. particularly around culture. And what happens in a family business is the good elements, the really successful family businesses have figured out how to integrate kind of their core family values into the business culture. And that's really gives them a competitive advantage. Second, family owned or family controlled businesses have a much longer term view. And so they might be more risk averse, but they have a longer term view, which is great. And there's some other reasons. So, but that led me eventually, I kept getting calls to help other family businesses from this family office that I was on the board with. And I didn't intentionally start off to develop a consulting practice. It just happened. And that was almost 15 years ago. And today we're still a boutique firm. We have four other business advisors that consult with family businesses, and we're all enjoying it. And the passion that I really have was based upon research I did about family businesses 10 years ago, that the lifespan of a family business has reduced dramatically since the 1950s. The average lifespan of a business in 1950 was 60 years. Now, there was no distinction between family and non-family business, but 60 years was the lifespan. Today, the family business lifespan average is 24 years. So it's gone from 60 to 24. Compare a family business to S&P 500, it's now 15 years. I saw that as an alarming trend. And as I was moving into my 50s, I wanted to kind of be more focused on just not being a CEO, but how can I really make a significant contribution to the greater good of whatever that would be. And I found this because I realized family businesses, they're the drivers of our GDP here in this country. Over a third of the Fortune 500 companies today are family controlled. They are one of the single biggest employers in the country. So they are the drivers of philanthropy. They are the leaders in innovation, family owned businesses. So this is an issue, a problem that really needs to be attended to. And so that's what I'm passionate about, helping as many family businesses as I can. And I bring on family advisors to kind of drink the Kool-Aid. They have the same vision and same passion. And we're all seasoned executives. We've all been in leadership roles. We're not professional consultants. We've all kind of been there, done that, CEOs, CFOs, and we've all had at least 10 years of experience in middle market family businesses, which is our area of focus, kind of that 50 to 3,500 employees, maybe 20 million to 500 million of annual revenue. It's kind of our area of focus. So that's who I am, where I've come from, what I'm doing.
That's a ton of valuable experience, and I have so many questions. But it's interesting that you found your niche in advising family businesses. But correct me if I'm wrong, but you didn't come from a family business. That wasn't your background.
No, I didn't. I was around it. My grandfather owned a bank in a small town in Oklahoma, and my other grandfather on my mom's side owned three florist shops in the Midwest. But I was exposed to it as a grandson, hanging out with my grandfathers. And maybe I got some of it from osmosis, but no, my dad never went into family business. My exposure was limited there, but it really, I don't know, it kind of makes me feel like I've got some roots in it just because of my two grandfathers, and they were both very influential in my life. But I never really did, besides high school jobs and things like that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you mentioned one of the things you like about working with these family businesses is that culture. So I would imagine, to some extent, you almost come into it and become a part of that culture and feel, hopefully, part of that sort of family structure, even if not officially a part of the family. But so when you're when you're doing this, like what sorts of things are you advising them on? I mean, it's just kind of in general, or like what types of specialties do you look at, or is it kind of an overall like how do we grow this? What's your
Yeah,
focus?
it is a generalist approach, but our we nobody calls us when things are going great.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we get phone calls when they have some really difficult challenges. And the typical challenges that is our entry into a family business client is related to maybe shareholder disagreements, uh, maybe the business is not performing well, or the strategy, the business has lost their way and they're having a difficult time implementing their strategy, or it's a very successful business that has grown and it's even transitioned to the next generation, but they lack governance. They need more formal governance. So we help them with that. And then lastly, and we've been very active here in the last 3 years on this, is the patriarchs succession plan. You know, how does she or he exit from the business, and what's the plan? And so that's where we help them with that. So those are kind of the general challenges that we work with them on.
I would imagine this is a lot harder than sort of general business advisory roles because of the family dynamic. Is that, I mean, I, I get
You're
it.
right.
There's some, yeah, there's good parts to it, but I'm also sure that, sometimes, uh, for better or worse, sometimes we want to fight the most with our
Yes.
families,
Yes.
in times of struggle, which, as you said, that's when a lot of people are bringing you in. So how do you, I mean, it's a very interesting sort of space to be in, and I imagine your experience helps, kind of because I people are going to have similar challenges, but you got to probably end up being a bit of a, I don't know, therapist, counselor, that sort of role alongside of, oh, let's look at, strictly what are the business metrics and that kind of thing.
No, yeah, that's exactly right. So we're not behavioral scientists or therapists. We are not. We are all business people, but business is the combination of the technical side and the social side and bringing them together to work efficiently. So we get into behaviors, right? We get into motivators, and we get into technology and systems and processes. So your earlier comment about it's harder in family business is right on the money. I believe business is difficult to run, just any business, right?
In general. Yeah.
Yeah, in general, because if you're the CEO of a business, you're trying to keep your customers happy, your employees happy, your shareholders happy, right? And that's never an easy task. Now, when you throw family in on top of that, now you got to keep Aunt Gertrude happy or Uncle Joe happy, and you got to show up to Mom's Thanksgiving dinner after you just terminated your sister. So it
Yeah.
it is it adds a whole nother level of complexity into leading, growing, and managing a family business. And so being able to have empathy with that and understanding of it, we are able to be, I won't say therapists, but I will say guides. And our approach is we use a Socratic approach because we really believe self learning through discovery uh, is the best way to work us out of the business so they can be self sustaining and they can take the tools, methodologies that we use and get their business back on track. And for multiple generations. We look at it, we always say, think about your unborn grandchild, when we're doing our planning. We think that far ahead.
So if you are thinking that far ahead, but then you're, earlier you talked about, that shift from, 60 years from a
Yeah.
generational business down to 24. What do you do? It sounds like your goal, your ideal is that people should, we should move back towards that, in these family businesses, back towards those 60 years. And I have heard, people, a couple of different, I guess, I don't know, sayings around this, but some people say, like, it takes one generation to build wealth, the next generation will hold on to it, and then the third generation is going to lose it, essentially, is like, it seems to be a cycle. And I've also, people have very, very strong opinions about, whether or not you should work with family at all, family, friends, that kind of thing, like people that you have personal relationships with. So balancing all of that with the business side of things has got to be a pretty tricky thing. And I know you said, you don't, not counsel, you start with culture. Is that kind of how do you, I don't know, maybe
We,
the best way to
we start with where the client is. So let me say more about that. Where we don't get called in unless there's a challenge. So we got to deal with that, and whatever that challenge may be. They may be having a dispute amongst shareholders. Well, so we got to dig into that. Well, usually what we find out is what's the cause of the dispute between shareholders. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's just because cousin John didn't invite me to his birthday party when I was 15 years old. I mean, so we will get into that. And what we do is we provide a forum and a safe place to learn how to confront issues in a constructive way, and how to distinguish real issues from just emotion. And if we can really get everybody looking at what is the real issue here, then we can go to work on solving it and make that distinct from some reaction or some emotion or something that we've been telling ourselves for 15 years that really isn't true, but we've been telling ourselves that long that we made it true. And so we help them unravel that, because in that particular case, because that's where their challenge was. If their challenge is, my cash flow, I don't have enough cash flow to get through the end of the quarter. Well, we're not going to focus in on how they're behaving and working and collaborating. We're going to focus in on, cash flow issues. So that's how we get started. Is we don't sell products, we don't sell books, we don't sell methodologies. We sell our service for advice, and we advise, we guide, but we don't tell them what to do. We'll provide tools, methodology, but what we do is help them learn and help them learn what to do.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, that same approach, whether it's a family business or I don't know what you call the opposite, a non-family business, but you would have, the idea would be similar, right? So you get called in as an advisor. It's going to be like, okay, let's start with the problem you called us for. And there may be some of those same emotional dynamics that you would have in a family business, but probably not with that history that you just described, right? It's like you're not going to have 15 years of resentment or whatever it is that's built up over something that happened in, so long ago. So it's maybe some of those challenges might be more ingrained in the family business than a non-family business. Are there other unique pieces to what you see, specifically to family businesses in terms of the challenges they encounter?
Well, besides the ones that we've talked about, I would say money. Money is kind of a big challenge, particularly in our more mature businesses that have family shareholders that are operators and family shareholders that are not operators in the business. And, there's some family members that they look at the distributions that they receive similar to, my 5-year-old daughter years ago thought that's where money came from, was the ATM. So if we didn't have money, well, you just go to that ATM and you get money. Okay.
Yeah.
So, so the distribution checks are supposed to come once a quarter, once a month, and and so it becomes an entitlement or a right.
Yeah.
And I that is a that's an issue that family businesses have that's very concentrated. Certainly, public companies they have a tremendous amount of pressure that to perform quarter to quarter. Um, and they've got not just 10 shareholders, they've got thousands.
Right. Right.
So, but it's not your family. It's not your aunt and uncle who that that's what they're living on, and you got in a rough patch, and you're not going to make distributions this year. What do you do for your aunt and uncle?
Yeah. Yeah. That's huh. That is I hadn't really thought about it that way. I mean, that family dynamic. I mean, nobody wants to not be distributing to their investors in any capacity, but yeah, that family dynamic makes that even more, as you say, like you're going to see them at Thanksgiving or whatever, some holiday, and they're mad that you haven't been sending distributions because business isn't good that year. Like that's going to be create added tension that has to be worked through.
Yes, and it's best to work through it well in advance of that situation happening.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned a big focus has been, kind of that succession plan. I, I don't know how true that saying about, sort of the three generations is, but do you, what do you, what if the children don't want to take over running the business? I mean, I'm sure those are some of there are certain scenarios that you encounter in those instances. What do you do to kind of advise people on ways to handle that?
Well, you have more options the longer your succession date is. So if you see yourself exiting the business in 10 years,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you're gonna we can help them build various plans or options based on trigger events. If you're saying I need to leave the business in 24 months, you have very limited options.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so so the first thing I would say is to your listeners, if you're in this situation, you want to start your succession planning thinking now as early as you can. And if you're a second generation or a third generation where there has not been a succession plan, you just inherited the business and got the keys to the office, start now for the next generation because you'll have a lot more options and opportunities. So, specific to your question, what do you do when the next generation doesn't want to be in that business? Well, that's how I got my very first business advisor. Her father in law was my client for about 10 years, and his children eventually said, look, I don't want the business. I don't want to take it over, have that responsibility, even though they worked in the business. And so we ended up in that case. They had a very good non-family member CEO. He was doing really well. And so we worked out a deal to sell the business to that non-family member CEO. And so it worked out just great. And then I hired her, and she is now one of our business advisors who help train and prepare next generation for succession or for themselves getting out of the business so they don't feel handcuffed to the business.
That's such a powerful point. Realistically, in any business, right? Whether it's a family business or not, kind of what is your exit strategy, and whether that be going public or sale or whatever it might be. I think the earlier you can think about what your exit strategy is, the easier that's going to be. I think I've actually read a couple of books about it's like start with the end in mind, that kind of thing on no matter whatever business venture you take. But I think that's also easier said than done sometimes, because it's like some people, especially the founder, starts that business and probably are just working so hard in the business, for a lot of years. Some people get out of that and move to a more managerial or CEO role, but so many people kind of continue on in the business role. And it's a, as you said, people listening, if you're in that scenario, start thinking about it now. I wonder if there's a ways to kind of express to people just how important that is, like, to think about, just it's almost like it's almost like that advisory should come when you're getting your, you're filing your incorporation paperwork, or you're getting your EIN or whatever. It's like, okay, here's your start, but what's this going to look like in, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 30 years, that kind of thing. And it's so often overlooked. I mean, I say this as someone who probably needs to think more about, what is the exit plan. So
Well, think about it in parallel to this is just the importance of it. Many of our clients, most of our clients, they have, I'll call wealth advisors that will give them advice and, you know, help them protect and mitigate risk with their wealth that they've accumulated.
yeah, yeah,
Over 14 years, I took a look at data of all of our clients, and over 80% of their net worth aggregate was in their business. Okay. So they had a professional wealth advisor advising them on 20% of their net worth.
yeah,
They had no advice on 80% of their net worth, no plan of how do I monetize that, whether I sell it to my children, give it to my children, or sell it to a third party. No thoughtfulness at all. So how do you eventually get that net worth over to wherever you want it to go, to family members, to philanthropy, to just maintaining your lifestyle, where you're not in the business, 24/7. I mean, to me, they should be starting their succession planning kind of as they launch their business. And you're right. Start with the end in mind. What's the exit strategy? I think everybody needs to think that. Hey, you learn that in business schools, right? You got to have, what's the exit plan?
right,
Well, here the exit plan, you have another option. It can be family generation success. Pardon me, that you don't have in a non-family business. So you have those options. But anyway, that's where I think the families miss the mark. And then mature families, once they have that succession plan, our next level of planning is the family constitution. So we start off with okay, here's your succession plan. Yep, it's good to go. That's going to carry you for a long time. But now you've got more generations coming in. You've got people marrying into the family. You got branches. So now what do you do from a governance perspective? So that's where we then elevate it to, well, let's develop our family constitution, which is like the Constitution of the United States. It kind of sets our governing rules for the family, and then we make sure all of the legal documents in the family constitution are all connected and aligned. Just family constitution is maybe in layman's terms, not legalese, but they complement one another. And that's kind of the progression that we work with our family businesses.
yeah. It I assume there's a certain level of business success, whether that's revenue or profit or what, that someone would want to have, or you would want someone to have before, sort of coming for an advisory. Not that these concepts aren't important at whatever level of business, but do you have, did you say 20 million to $100 million revenue?
Yeah, 20 million to 500 million annual revenue companies. Yeah. Yes, correct.
Okay.
That lower middle market.
Yeah. So, so there's probably people listening to this that, maybe their business is making $1 million a year, something like that. But I would think, and tell me if you agree, that conceptually these things are no different.
Yeah, it's all the same. Yes, and so I like your podcast title, Know Your Why. That's where we start off with succession planning. That's where we start off with strategic planning. That's where we start off with all of our planning. What's the real purpose here?
Yeah.
What's the why for your succession plan? And to lead them in there, we get them not to define success, we get them to define prosperity. What does prosperity mean to you? And we won't let them use dollars and cents. So we can put a number there. Prosperity is I make $1 million. Prosperity is I make 10 million, 100 million, or whatever. But no, we really want to know what is it that you're going to really say, my life was prosperous, and then we can build in financial plans around that, because you can be very prosperous and not have $1 million in the bank, in my opinion.
Right. Right.
I mean, that's our point of view at our firm. So once we are able to get that definition of prosperity, then we take a look from their, what I would say, their business readiness to reach there, their personal readiness to reach there, and then their financial readiness to reach there. And there being, we call it the zone of prosperity. And that's how we help them then move forward on that track.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And yes, prosperity doesn't. There's a whole host of other components to prosperity, outside of just wealth. But thank you for the perfect segue into asking you the questions I like to ask every guest. The first one is of course, what is your why, Rob? What's you can even stick with the theme. What's your definition of prosperity?
Yeah. So, well, first of all, Ferguson Alliance, I started it off is, our why is to help reverse what we see as a negative trend in family businesses life cycle, is to reverse that for as many family businesses that we can touch. My personal why is being able to impact in a positive way as many people that I can with all of the learnings from mistakes that I've made in my 66 years. And to just to be a giver and not a taker. Be able to I think prosperity to me is, the relationships I have with friends. It's certainly our relationships we have with our family and our community, but it's more than the richness comes, I just think, from relationships, being related and giving. Certainly, I've had a lot of people give to me. I've had some great mentors, personal mentors, business mentors, and so I try to lean into that way as best I can. And that's where I feel prosperity for me makes me feel successful.
Yeah, love it, love it. When people hear this and they want to reach out to you, what's the best way to get in touch?
You can find me on LinkedIn. Again, my name is Rob Ferguson on LinkedIn. We're headquartered in Houston, Texas, although we do have clients across the United States. You can also go to our website. That is ferguson-alliance.com. And you can make an appointment with me. You go to About Us and find my picture and a link to my calendar or any one of our other advisors. Or you can give us a call on our toll-free number.
Okay, perfect. And we'll have that in the show notes so people can connect. Well, I just want to say thank you for coming on the show today. Thanks for sharing all that you did. I think that they said that, the concept, there are some unique concepts with family businesses, and certainly the, at whatever level of, revenue you might have, like these types of, knowing your exit strategy, defining prosperity, all of it is so important to, getting alignment in where you want your business to go. So I think, people should not feel intimidated by, oh, I don't have a, $100 million business. Like it's the same stuff, it's the same.
Before we go, I just want to say, go to our website and check out our resource, because we have a plethora of information and research. We also have an ebook called The Path to Prosperity, and we talk about what that is, and we actually give you best tips and process on how to do that. Um, you don't have to have a facilitator to do it, but and we'd be happy to talk to you as well. Even we do that all the time, even if you're not necessarily going to be a paying client of ours. We'll do a 30-minute no charge phone call for as many family businesses as we can, and all of our research is available. And you can sign up to follow us, or you can sign up for our weekly newsletters. You can attend our webinars. We have a lot of guests. We have clients on sharing their stories. So there's a lot of reasons to connect with Ferguson Alliance. You can. We're going to help however we can.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out today. Thanks for being here. And like I said, I just think these topics are really incredibly important and not talked about enough. So thank you for coming and sharing all that you did today. I really appreciate it. Awesome. And folks listening, make sure you do connect with Rob. Check out the website. Sounds like there's a ton of valuable resources there. And please like, rate, and review the show so we can get more great guests. And thank you all for listening.
Hey there, I am Dr. Jason Balara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast, where we explore the why behind success. Every week, I meet with real estate investors, veterinary entrepreneurs, mindset coaches, authors, and fitness professionals to uncover their why and how it drives them on the winding road to success. What is your why?